All right, good afternoon everyone and welcome to the press briefing after the Board of Governors meeting of the Nordic Investment Bank. The Nordic Investment Bank is an international financial institution of the Nordic and the Baltic countries, and the Board of Governors is the highest decision-making body at the ministerial level. This briefing covers the outcome of the meeting, which was just concluded. Our speakers today will be the Chair of the Board of Governors and Estonian Finance Minister Mart Võrklaev, as well as the Icelandic Governor and Minister for Finance and Economic Affairs, Thórdís Gylfadóttir, as well as the President of the Nordic Investment Bank, André Küüsvek. Just for your information, we have just released the press release, which is summarizing the outcome of the meeting, as well as a common statement by all these 8 member countries of the Nordic Investment Bank. But I will now give the floor over to the Chair, Mart Võrklaev.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the press briefing after the Board of Governors meeting, which I shared today. The fact that we gathered here today tell us that the member countries of the Nordic Investment Bank, which are the Nordic and Baltic countries, are today closer than ever. Our ties have always been strong, but we clearly see that today's geopolitical environment has further intensified the cooperation in the Nordic-Baltic region. An important trigger for this has been Russia's unprovoked and unjustified war against Ukraine, which has created new uncertainties and at the same time both the Nordic and Baltic into the same boat. There is now more focus on the security of the region, while the long-term challenges of battling climate change and making our economies more competitive all remain. In short, there is a clear need to support the resilience of the region. The Nordic Investment Bank is an important tool in this regard, as it has strong financial firepower and unique ownership structure of the Nordic and Baltic countries. We discussed today what the bank can do in the current circumstances, and the outcome is summarized in the statement which has just been released. As the governors of NIB, we identified 3 areas of which the bank should put the focus in the current circumstances. These are first, climate and nature, second, productivity and innovation, as well as third, security and resilience. The bank is already playing a key role supporting these areas. For example, last year NIB maintained strong disbursement levels and paid out 3.4 billion euros in loans. But now the governors are inviting the bank to further sharpen its focus in the current circumstances, where the unit and the resilience of the region is needed more than ever. NIB's President and CEO André Küüsvek will further elaborate on these themes in his introduction. As a finance minister, I'm also glad that unlike other international finance institutions, the Nordic Investment Bank is not only bringing returns to the owners in terms of the projects it is financing, but it is also a dividend-paying institution. This was based on the net profit of 250.7 million euros last year. The dividend payment is a testament to NIB's financial strength despite the turbulent economic environment. It also underlines the bank's ability to add value not only through leveraging investments in the region, but also by bringing the capital back to the state budgets. With these words, I would like to give the floor to Thórdís, Kolbrún, who will share her perspectives. Please.
Thank you very much, Mart, for your introduction. Just to mention that tomorrow we will celebrate the Nordic Day, which marks the signing of the Helsinki Treaty in 1962. Also, the Nordic Investment Bank, established in 1975, was a child of this Nordic cooperation. In 2005, the Baltic countries joined as full members, and we have a unique Nordic-Baltic financial institution as a common tool for us. I am pleased that we had this meeting today. It was a good meeting. It was fruitful. There was a lot to discuss, and topics were very timely in steering NIB's role and priorities. Let me first refer to what you said, Mart. It is important that the international financial institutions are working efficiently. And the Nordic Investment Bank is a good example of that. I am very much agree on your comment regarding the dividend payments. This is especially welcome during times of uncertainty and where the public finances are tight. The same efficiency is called for when financing projects, and it is important that the resources are allocated in a way that brings the highest possible impact for the invested money, and especially to mobilize private financing. I am happy to note that NIB is one of the key contributors to the financing of green transition and productivity in the region. Last year have also witnessed a growth in loans in Iceland, very much focusing on renewable energy and infrastructure. On the three focus areas, I could say a few words about them from my angle. First, the Nordic and Baltic economies have repeatedly demonstrated their resilience to address challenges. Most recent examples are, of course, Corona crisis and the energy shock caused by Russia's war in Ukraine. It is important that NIB can respond to such shocks. While we speak, my own country is witnessing a volcanic eruption, which requires prompt repair action by the government. Second, in the Nordic context, the primary objective of NIB is the support of green energy transition and productivity growth through digitalization and innovation. For the Nordics, it is also extremely important to support the integration of the Baltic states to the Nordic region, building their own economies, models, and infrastructures. All these challenges require substantial investments into the future, where also the Nordic Investment Bank can help. And then third, the security and defense are the top priorities in the region right now. We are now in uncharted waters after Russia started its war in Ukraine, full-scale invasion. We must further improve our overall resilience, since resilience is, in my mind, first line of defense, be it economic strength and energy security and other infrastructures that also support defense and security in the region. NIB's activity supports the resilience and critical infrastructures that ultimately also have relevance to the security and defense. For example, through energy production capacity, safer grids, or investment in R&D. Thank you.
Okay, now I would like to invite NIB President André Küüsvek to focus more on these three identified areas.
Thank you, both Thórdís and Mart, as well as your colleagues, other ministers that participated in what I would call is a historic event of 8 countries being out here in Tallinn to discuss both the present challenges and the future opportunities. I would start by saying that next year the NIB will celebrate 2 important events. First of all, it will be 50 years in December 2025 that the bank was created, the foundation documents were signed. And secondly, it will be 20 years for the Baltic countries to be members of the Nordic Investment Bank, which then for the past 2 decades has had 5 Nordic and 3 Baltic countries under one financing institution. A lot has happened during these 50 years, but few things continue to repeat itself, such as the threats we see on the security and resilience in our region, the energy challenges perhaps. So let me go into some of these topics that we discussed with our governors and ministers, both at the seminar this morning, as well as at the formal Board of Governors meeting. First, climate and nature. This is one of the core mandates, one of the 2 core mandates of the NIB. The Baltic and Nordic countries have all set very clear objectives to reach climate targets and address biodiversity loss. Our job as a bank is to support those targets in the countries. 2023 was the hottest year yet in record. The impacts of both climate change and nature loss are a source of a growing uncertainty also to our economies and risks. The effects of the climate change on our region are many extreme weather and rising sea level affect our water resources and infrastructure. There are effects on the wildfire, disease and biodiversity loss in our forests, as well as our agriculture and fisheries. However, the transition towards a climate and nature-resilient economy also brings opportunities. We have world-leading companies in transformative industries that include renewable energy, battery value chain, hydrogen economy, carbon capture and storage, as well as carbon-neutral steel and cement production. Building on these successes, we recognize that climate change and nature loss need to be addressed jointly. For instance, by investing in circular economy solutions that support both efficient use of natural resources and climate mitigation objectives. We are already financing many of these projects. But steer this transition towards net zero targets, significant additional investment will be needed. And the NIB can operate as a trigger and bring a demonstration effect, mobilizing also private sector money to these projects. We crowd in private sector investment across our projects to bridge these financing gaps. By engaging and collaborating actively with our public financing partners, we can also support the efficient use of public resources for green transition, which is increasingly important at a time of growing demand for public finance and new fiscal priorities. Secondly, second topic is productivity and innovation, which is the second pillar of the NIB mandate and has been for many, many years. We have already allocated significant resources and amounts through loans and investments into bonds in this field. Both productivity and innovation play a key role in driving economic growth and competitiveness. It is particularly important in our relatively small region to be smart, fast, and innovative. I'm glad to say that the Nordic-Baltic region already hosts various innovative clusters, connecting industry, academia, and private sector to advanced sectors such as renewable energy, life sciences, IT, digitalization, e-government, fintech, autonomous and electric transportation, and green shipping. Our countries have consistently ranked among the most competitive economies globally, and we need to recognize that this leadership cannot be taken for granted. As technological frontiers expand and societies age, we must rejuvenate our economies by investing in research and development as well as in human capital. To stay at the leading edge of new and emerging technologies, NIB's mandate to finance projects that improve productivity and will be important in particular where the market failure exists. It is important to note that climate and nature, as well as productivity and innovation, all contribute to resilience and strength of our region. That takes me to the third point, which is now a necessity rather than a long-term mandate. And this is the security and resilience. Russia's war against and in Ukraine, as well as the conflicts in the Middle East, are examples of increasing geopolitical tension and risks, highlighting the significance of security preparedness. These conflicts have also triggered a surge in energy prices, as well as disrupted trade and supply chains. Hybrid threats such as cyber attacks, forced migration, threats to critical infrastructure, be it gas pipes, telecommunications, or transport infrastructure, have increased significantly. Beyond these developments, a broader agenda is evolving, encompassing access to key materials, the security of supply chains, data and information infrastructure, a stronger defense, as well as developing the related infrastructure. The themes of green transition, innovation, and security are mutually reinforcing. Renewable technology companies accelerate the climate transition, which in turn promotes energy security. Investments in nearshoring, bringing industry back to our home countries and the like-minded neighboring countries, will strengthen our supply chains and resilience against geopolitical shocks. And it will allow us to maintain high levels of expenditure in research and development. By focusing on these priorities, we can make the Nordic-Baltic economies more resilient. From the management side, I would like to thank the governors for the useful guidance of today. I would like to thank the board of directors that we work regularly with on a monthly basis for their support. And I would like to thank the staff of the NIB for putting their efforts and their hours into achieving and building a better bank. With this, I would like to stop and hand back to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you very much, André. Thank you, ministers. Now we have a short possibility for any questions. Are there any questions online or in the room? If there are no questions, then I think we will close this press briefing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.